Okay, thank you very much. It was short but intense. Thank you for reminding some of the questions we had last year in the workshop. So we will finish this roundtable, and then after the floor will be yours for comments and questions with Patrick Waelbroeck, who is an economist, member here of the Institute Mines-Télécom, and who is going maybe to open up a bit the subject with regards to economic business model and maybe the future of how economy is going to moving. So the floor is yours, Patrick.
Thank you. So I'm an associate professor here at Telecom Paris Tech. I'm teaching economics of the internet and econometrics. Let me first say, I'll try to give you a different perspective on privacy. And I will try to convince you that it might be useful to think in this way. First, let me just say that there is something going on in the background that we should be aware of, and this thing is that the notion of ownership is being challenged today. It's being challenged by two factors. First, we are moving from business models where you transfer ownership from the producer to the consumer to an economy where basically it's more focused on usage. Okay, it's easy to sell a CD, a music CD on eBay, much harder to sell an iTunes track on eBay. Also, if you use Spotify, very difficult to sell a stream on eBay. So the first thing. Second thing is that we are moving from this ownership economy to an economy with what people have called the share economy, where people are co-producing, co-riding, co-renting, co-funding, co-consuming. Okay, I think it's important to have that in our mind when we talk about privacy. Non, c'est bon, c'est bon. Je bouge pas. So I'm an economist, so I will talk about benefits and costs, and I will try to argue that we should encourage, and by encouraging I mean give the right incentives to pursue activities for which there are more benefits than costs to society. Okay, this is my main message, and I try to convince you of that. So first, let me also, before I go into the details of my understanding of the challenges behind privacy, let me first say that I'm a founding member of this new chair from the Institut Mines-Télécom on the values and policy of personal information, not just personal data, and that actually economists have very few things to say about digital identities, about contributions, about trails. I think these are more relevant in other, and more, I would say, more convincingly studied in other disciplines, such as law, computer sciences, philosophy, and sociology. So I think it was a very, it's a promising chair. I think it's a promising area of research to try to combine these different disciplines to try to better understand what privacy is all about. So in this chair, we are looking at, indeed, these four topics: digital identities, privacy, trails, traces, footprints that we leave on the internet, and contribution and collaboration. And I will try to argue now, in a very small amount of time, that these four different topics are very deeply interrelated. No, again, I have to say some caveats. Economists as general are not very well equipped to deal with identities. Why? Because in the standard model of the neoclassical model of economic theory, people only interact through a market mechanism. There is only a price. People don't talk to each other outside of the market. So people are isolated from each other. And in this context, it's almost impossible to talk about identities. It's even harder to talk about digital identities and people having avatars or more identities or playing different roles. This is something we cannot deal with, and we learned a lot. I learned a lot from reading the literature from sociology. That's the first head scratcher for me. Another head scratcher is the economics of contribution and of collaboration. If you believe that information and knowledge is a public good means that it is non-rival. The fact that I'm using or reading a piece of information doesn't prevent someone else to do the same thing at the same time. And if you believe this is non-rival and non-excludable, it's difficult to exclude people from accessing to this knowledge, then you agree with me that knowledge and information are public goods. And if they are indeed public goods, then as economists, we tend to think that it should be provided by a public firm. This is not the case. We see that individuals contribute to public goods such as Wikipedia, knowledge produced on Wikipedia. People post comments on forums, etc. So the private provision of a public good is also a head scratcher, and we have to think about this when we try to think about privacy. Now, economists analyze privacy in a very limited, I think, way, and this vision of privacy is simply a story that you try to get better targeted products that better fits your needs or your taste, but then you fear that you might be price discriminated, meaning that you might pay a higher price than what you would have paid otherwise. I think this is a very limited view of privacy, and let me try to convince you that there are many other challenges. So let me start with now. I'm in really the main body of my talk. Let me start with an unusual statement. Let me start with this. The user of a digital technology is a producer. He is a producer of information. And then this information, he can produce this information involuntarily, because he leaves trails, footprints on the internet, or it can be voluntary, meaning that he contributed to a forum, he wrote an article on Wikipedia. I think this is important to understand that these are two scenarios. Now, people, when you read what people are saying about some aspects of this production of information, people refer to it sometimes as digital labor or sometimes as serfdom. And I think both terms are misleading. Let me start with the first one. I think it is misleading to talk about just labor, or digital labor, whatever the name for that, because it hides the fact that in some cases you are co-producing something. You, for instance, in an open source car project, people are working together to build and to create a blueprint, and then it's just a matter of, if you have a 3D printer, it's just a matter of printing this blueprint. So this is misleading. The second idea that this production of information is slavery or serfdom or whatever the name for that, it's also misleading. Although I think that two points can be well taken. First, it is true that people feel that they are being exploited because they have the feeling that they are giving away for free the information. Secondly, it's true that we are governed by algorithms and big data, and that also can be assimilated to some forms of serfdom. But I would just like to say that this doesn't have to be this way. Last year we met. And it is mainly like that because all business models on the internet are based, not all of them, but most of them are based on, are financed by ads. There are other business models, subscription-based, tax-based, and let me just give you an illustration. Last year we met Mr. Collin and Collin, one with one L, one with a double L, and they were about to write an official report on how new fiscal rules could be applied to internet companies, and especially foreign internet companies. And they argued, I think it's very convincing, that personal data is an input. It creates value for a firm. So it means that the firm is established in a country, and if it is established in a country, then it should be subject to taxes. I like this idea, and I could even push it further. If now you accept the idea that a user is producing information and that value is created from that production of information, well, then you can apply some taxes that we know very well how to use in France. Now, let me continue with let's accept the idea that a user of a digital technology is a producer of information, and let me talk now about how reliable is this information. We have been talking about big data. Big data is only good if you are working with reliable data. Otherwise, it's just you're just applying an algorithm to something that's wrong, and it's not very useful. Well, I think that in many cases, what you find on the internet, the information that you find, is far from being true. Let me give you some anecdotes. Once a colleague of mine said to me, on the internet, everybody's happy. And he got a point. When you look at the pictures of people on the internet, they're all smiling, okay? If you were an alien and you were scanning these profiles, you would say, okay, 99% of the people on the internet are happy. This is obviously not true. If you look at personal ads on online dating sites, you would see that all men are making more money than their peers, okay? That's a lie too. We discussed TripAdvisor in one of our workshops within the chair, and we found out that they were employing 100% just to filter out questionable comments. So the data that you are putting in your algorithms, you had better make sure that it's correct. Otherwise, you're just applying and conditioning a behavior based on algorithms that could lead to false conclusions. Now let me, okay, I'm on time. Let me now make the link between what I just said and privacy. I think it is important to understand how people share the information with others, in what socio-technological context, and under what identity. Okay? If we understand that better, we also understand what they don't want to share with others. In other words, if you understand better the production of individual information, then you also understand the demand for privacy. And in mathematical terms, it means that this is a dual problem. If you solve the problem of better understanding information production, you solve the problem of demand for privacy. And if you're an economist, now you know what my next point is. You have people who are supplying personal data. We have advertisers who are demanding personal data, and then you cross the two lines, and you have a market equilibrium. I'm not going to, within the time, I'm not going to discuss that. If it's a good thing, if it's a bad thing, it's happening. You have real-time exchanges for ads, people exchanging ads places, and you have people trading CPM for CPCs. It's happening right now, so I won't make any statement about it. What I want to talk about is, if we believe that this is something that should be developed, what are the conditions to do that? And I think one very important question is an element of this problem is the controversial notion of autonomous data. And let me just say it very simply. Can a piece of data have a life of its own? Okay, that's conceivable in the US. This is very hard to conceive in Europe. And then I would like to conclude with this simple statement that if this is okay, if autonomous data is enabling business models and new and innovations, then indeed, as Mr. Kleiner said earlier, we shouldn't just analyze privacy policies on the one hand and everything else on the other hand. We should really look at both privacy and innovation policies at the same time. Let me finish with this example. Criteo, which is one of the best performing internet companies in France, is filing for $800 million US IPO on the NASDAQ. This is not a coincidence. So we see that there is a lot of value that can be created, but it's not created in Europe, it's created in the United States. Thank you very much for your attention.